Welcome to People's Republic with Brian Griffith. We bring you news and analysis from the front lines of the global struggle for social and economic justice. People's Republic originates on KOOP Austin and is also syndicated on WHIV New Orleans. I'm your host, Brian Griffith, and here's what's going down in your backyard and across the world. Welcome to People's Republic. My name is Brian Griffith. This week we're going to be talking about a little bit about the Homes Not Handcuffs campaign, but more importantly, we want to talk about kind of how that's affected homeless people and how that's kind of played out. Because basically, if you're not familiar with the Homes Not Handcuffs, if you're not kind of familiar with what's been going on in Austin, basically there were some city council ordinances that kind of decriminalized some aspects of homelessness. After that, there were pretty, I think, horrific attacks. On homeless people coming from So that's basically the lead in. We're going to be talking with Philip Mitchell, whose tent was attacked a while back. So thank you, Philip, for coming on.
Thank you. I guess I could say that I'm kind of glad to be here to share, I guess, some of the things that are going on around us on a day-to-day basis. As far as the tent being attacked, I don't even know where to go with that. I guess I try to be one of them ones that, since I've been here, I've been picked on, not so much as the individuals that's living like myself. I could say it's people within just the city council kind of stuff. And no, I couldn't tell you their direct names or anything like that. I'll give you and I just kind of hate repeating myself, but it seems like that's what I'm doing every day anyways when I wake up. It's like a bad Twilight Zone thing, But it's just like working a day labor job, and you're at that job, and then you come back to your place of living. And yes, I have been to jail before, a county jail. Yeah. And I know their little cell shakes down, and I know you've seen it on TV if you watch TV before. But it's like they come up in there and they're checking your cells to see if there's any contraband or anything like that they feel you're not supposed to have. And like I said, I go to work, I come back home, and that same kind of thing has been done to my tent. And it's like, just because I'm a homeless individual, what gives something else the authority to feel like they could come into my place of living and do that to me, and like I said, I put that on the cops. I can't tell you their names, but I can read, within some stuff like that. And that's how I feel about my tent. With all the construction that's going on with 35, I just kind of feel that it's one of those things that they're trying to scare me to move around, just to constantly have me moving. That's the thing that has been done to me. But within, I guess, like I say, the construction on here, I guess it was the plan to get me out of here before, and I don't know how far that project is going down 35, but maybe 2 months I was here, I had a group of cops that came over here and tried to make us leave this area of where we're at right now. So I feel that fire was, it was something that was revolved around that kind of stuff. No, I can't, like I said, say their names or who actually did it, but that's what I honestly believe.
Yeah, so it's still not really clear like who it was who did it, and just to kind of bring it back a little bit, like what actually. What kind of happened? I know there was basically like somebody was firecrackers, right?
And that's all the he say, she say kind of a thing. As far as I know, I was at a car washing job that day. My lady, she was at a kind of like a checkup for herself. And there was a gentleman that was right here at this daycare that's behind us right now that basically he was the one that, my understanding, that came and put the fire out. When I got here, the left side of my tent basically was burnt down. My front door, it normally has a lock on it, but they decided to slash it and come on in and extinguish some more stuff. My stuff was over here on the left-hand side versus her stuff on the right-hand side of the tent. Her stuff took a major toll versus mine. And it's just one of those things to where it tries to create chaos and frustration within what you're already dealing with, to make me and her fight in ways that I'm still trying to understand.
Yeah, it's absolutely just. I mean, I don't even feel like I need to say this, but it's ridiculous. It's obscene that the laws they passed were such minor laws. Really, it was essentially like sort of, I think, decriminalizing kind of camping in public places, like basically allowing homeless people, from my understanding, just a little bit more stability or a little bit more of just kind of a chance to not have to kind of move around, like you were saying.
Right.
And so that minor thing, because most of these laws actually went into effect in the 90s or so. These are not like it hasn't been around very long. It hasn't, it's basically just kind of rolling us back to like the point of like the 1990s, where a couple things that a couple minor things such as camping in public in public places is now kind of no longer a crime. It shouldn't be a crime.
It shouldn't have been a crime in the first place, to me, because you got things that are going on within that area. I guess homeless people, me sitting down because I have nowhere else to go. How is that a crime? I mean, I don't really understand how that's breaking some law. So you constantly want me to be this is where my mind goes. You want me to constantly be on the move. What do you constantly want me on the move for? Are you trying to tire me out? Are you mentally trying to break me down to cave in to do something harmful to myself or to someone else because of the mentality of, you just took a seat. You're homeless. I don't think you should be sitting down. Keep moving, so I can understand some of them within, like myself, if I was walking down this sidewalk and someone is just sprawled out on the sidewalk, you don't want to walk over someone, so I can understand that. But it's just like people are oblivious to that kind of stuff. If you see someone on the sidewalk just sprawled out like that, they don't even have the decency in them to be like, are you okay? Do you need something to drink, or can I help you? That kind of thing is just a disgusting sight there. And it's like, wow, that's a human being right there. You know what I'm saying? You don't know what that individual is actually going through in their life for them to be in that position that they are on that sidewalk. So
yeah, and it also feels like when people are, again, because it seems like so much of the real estate people are so concerned about the value of their real estate, the value of their property. They're concerned about like the profit margin of their business or whatnot. And there's such a kind of lack of compassion. And there's like, if we're talking about like, what do we, like there's this kind of like mentality of like, what do we do with homeless people? Well, it's like we have empty homes everywhere. It's frustrating.
You know what I mean?
I mean, we have something like, I don't know, I've seen anywhere between like 6 times and 20 times more empty homes, that is just houses or apartment units or whatnot, sitting empty than there are homeless people. And there's no, like, there's a sense people just throw their hands up in the air and say there's nothing we can do about this. And like, to me, even like the kind of decriminalizing aspect of it, even the homes not handcuffs things, it's like that's a start. But like, I don't know, it frustrates me that like we're the richest country. The U.S. is the richest country. I don't know that there's a we there, but the U.S. is the richest country that's ever existed on the face of the planet. No other country has amassed such wealth, and yet I know so many people who are either homeless or have been homeless, or on the verge of homelessness, even as we have empty housing sitting everywhere. And it's just like rent goes up, like rent keeps going up, so that like now, even though people working 2 or 3 jobs, it's just like
I could tell you I did this job with this gentleman not too long ago, and it was within some real estate kind of a thing. I hooked up with that man, I believe, around 9 o'clock in the morning, and it was basically getting apartments together, cleaning up. It was in that college area, and so I'm in this apartment. It was told to me that it was clean by some other people before I went up in there. But once I started walking through it, it was like, really? You know, I started seeing like the bottom panel of the wall, it was loose and stuff like that. So it's like, wow, you're the person that you were supposed to walk after your workers and check up on some things to see if it was okay for the people that are moving in. But it's like it's still got some areas that need to be improved. But the thing you're worried about is the bigger chunk of money you're about to make off of this apartment, and the individual that's about to come in here and be paying you that monthly rent. But yet you don't want to try to, how am I trying to work this? Basically take care of that individual that's about to keep putting money in your pocket on a continuous basis. You know, so it's one of those sayings to me. It's like, how is it easier for a camel to get through an eye of a needle than it is for a rich person to get into heaven? And it's like, because they're greedy as you know, they're really greedy.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm seeing. You know, it's like, oh man, and it's driving frustrations that, you know, people don't even really understand because they're not living on this side of the track. It's just fingers being pointed at us. You know, there's a lot of people out here, yeah, they got their drugs problems or their drinking problems, but it ain't no different from someone else that lives inside with that same stuff, you know, and to try to point the finger at them like they won't get up and do something with themselves. The reason they ain't getting up and doing anything with themselves because you won't buddy up with them to try to let them gain what it is you got.
And it's also kind of, you know, when you're talking about like drinking, drug problems and whatnot, I mean, that I think comes from kind of a level of despair, right? That comes from when there's no opportunity, when there's nothing, and there is that sort of that double standard, that like this idea that somebody shouldn't be helped because they're struggling with something, struggling with addiction. I mean, first of all, when people are struggling with addiction because of just how difficult life is, and then the other part of that is like, you know, it's not like quote unquote successful people. I don't like say people with a bunch of money. It's not like they don't do those things for sure. It's just
it's just covered up very well. It's just covered up more, and that's stuff that I really try not to think about too much either, because that even drives anger, you know, within me to see. And like I keep saying, individuals like myself out here that want to be not in their position of living, you know. And so it's, oh man, I I don't even know. I guess one of my things is I got angry at someone out here, you know, and kind of attacked them. But that was my own dealing with that individual, you know, from something that we had went through. And that was, you know, everything else that's been going on with that fire and some other stuff that made me go back to that individual and have that, you know, that attack kind of. I didn't just, but still I kind of feel bad about it. But then I look back at it to be like the way that individual did me also in that area, it was wrong for them to feel like that it was right. It's like I can't let that individual keep running around here doing that to others, you know. So I'm not out here trying to just stick my chest out at any and everybody, but it's just like, wow, some of it I just, you know, I'm just kind of fed up with it.
What is it that you feel like you're fed up with?
The lack of care. You know, it's within homeless individuals. It's a lot of BS that's talked about us. At one point in time right here where I'm living, you know, people drive by here continuously throwing out trash. You know, I guess they feel that that's supposed to be my job to do, since I don't have a job. It's like, okay, pick up this trash, and then you could come out here on the corner and beg for some money from us. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, And my response to that was just like, I just started kicking the trash back out in the street. I didn't care what it was, so that you could run over your own stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so am I wrong for doing that? I guess for the ones that aren't having that behavior of throwing their trash out in the street and they're facing the consequences of me doing that, then I could be slightly wrong. But
I sometimes hear from people like this sort of idea that like, oh, if I give money to a homeless person, I want, like, they need to be doing something for me. Or they need to be like, whether it's cleaning windows, and it's that, like, to me, that's just a noxious idea. This idea that like, you have people who are struggling, and it's like that they have to kind of do this kind of song and dance routine that they just kind of. And it's like, no, you should give money to people when you can, because you have a fellow human being in need. You have somebody who's struggling. That's the way I see it, at least. How does that kind of play out? Like, what do you how do you see that?
That one's a subject that I guess I've been tackling with my lady up in here, where it's just like I feel that a lot of the weight that I've been carrying, and for me to go do a job and then come back here and be like, hey, it'd be nice if you'd have called me and maybe, see if I wanted something to eat or had food here. It's kind of the one hand washing the other kind of a thing. I'm kind of lost in that one, because sometimes I do feel that I just turn it to God, really, because that's where I guess I'll go with it. I don't really feel like people have to be doing something all the time, because sometimes these people are out here on these corners in the way at which God is trying to get people to tithe that don't tithe, that don't go to church, and they don't put their money in those baskets for the preacher man or who's ever running that congregation. There's people out here that God's got out here for whatever reason. But that's your way of tithing back. They don't necessarily have to wash your windows or, whatever it is that you might see these various individuals out here doing to receive some kind of money from you. That's what I know. But people do things for their own mind frame to try to get out of feeling that they're lazy, to receive that money from you.
So like that then it kind of sounds like you're saying like that's also kind of part of like, trying to feel productive, is that kind of mindset of like, if I don't have a job, I'm going to try and make a job for myself or something. Okay. I don't think many people kind of see homelessness. I don't think many people kind of have an understanding of like, what the average homeless person goes through, or what any kind of homeless person really goes through. Yeah. What sort of, I guess what sort of like is sort of a day for you? Like what does a week look like, and sort of what? Wow. What kind? I know that's a big question.
Yeah, that is a real hard question to answer. Because let's just say I've been pretty much trying to be at peace and be still, right now, because that's just where it seems like he's got me. But on some other days, like I say, I could try to go to a day labor place, and I was expecting to get out and go to work that day. I didn't do that. I was up there possibly talking to another homeless person, and them telling me about, what they're going through, and then me trying to shoot some kind of inspiration to them, within what's happening to them. Man, it's like I said, that is a very hard question, a super hard question. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I guess I know you've mentioned God. I know you've mentioned religion a couple of points. Like, what sort of role does a kind of religion play in kind of your life and outlook? If you want to talk about it, if not, that's
another one of those hard questions. Because there's things that people and myself really don't understand when it comes to religion. I'm not out here because it's something that I chose to do. I just want to quit my job and want to see what it was like to be a homeless person, even though there's things I've read where people are actually doing that, and now this was something that was designed for me to be out here. And people can look at my background all they want to when it comes to drugs, and I can straight up tell you, yes, I've tried coke. That was in my early 20s. I've tried maybe some ecstasy. That was still in my early 20s. Pot. I've never really taken anything that's made you hallucinate. I've always been skeptical of that kind of stuff. And so there's things that my eyes have seen that man will think that I've lied about just to have some kind of rubbing of an elbow with you or some kind of friendship. But that ain't what it is. That's why I say there's something here bigger than you and me. And that's where my religion comes in. I don't want to say I'm a Catholic. I'm a Baptist. I'm just a child of God working up under him, within some stuff that I've seen. And I've known him to be harsh on me, and I've known him to be compassionate. So that's my head spinner right there, because whenever there's some hardness coming and I feel like I've been being nothing but compassionate to things around me, then it's like now I'm starting to develop that extra hardness to me, because it seems like it's just extra being hard to me. Instead of, it's like, give out in the world what you expect to get back. Well, I've been giving out, seems within my view, kindness. Why in the hell is this, kind of stuff where my tent's getting burnt down? You telling me karma from when I was a kid is now coming back on me as an adult? Okay, well, let me think about that one and sit back for a minute, on myself. I had a gentleman over here at the church ask me a question where it's like, well, what if it was some kids that did that? Well, I would still want to pull out my rod and not spare it. And when I say that, I'm not gonna beat your kid to death, you know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna want to whoop your kid to be like, that ain't cool. I got that same kind of thing when I was growing up. Still, I got whoopings here and there because there was a badness there. But in some ways, I feel that I've calmed down. But there's still some other stuff that's poking at me that's trying to get an uprising to be like, there's a devil there, And
one of the things I feel like I'm always talking about is like Austin considers itself to be such a progressive city. Like so many people are like, oh yeah, Austin's progressive. People think our cops are progressive or whatnot. It's just not. It's not the case. Anyone who's ever dealt with like APD or anyone who's ever done like political organizing work, they know that like cops here just do the same things as cops everywhere. You have the same unjustified police killings, you have the same brutality, you have the same misogyny, you got all that. I'm wondering, I guess what that kind of looks like for you, like sort of, you said earlier in the interview that like the cops kind of make sure they have tried to like make sure that you're always moving, they're trying to like kind of disrupt your life. Is that something that, is something that's still happening? Like, have you seen any changes since these kind of laws were passed, since the city council, or is it pretty much the same?
It seems no matter where I go, on these street corners, it seems to be one of those that pop up. And when I say those, I mean the black and white. To where, see that square right there? You see how it's designed and how far it walks out? What's the difference between me and that cop or a firefighter when he is holding his boot up, walking in traffic, trying to get someone to donate some money to their organization or to themselves? What's the difference between that person and me trying to be out there in that same and paying attention to traffic to see if someone wants to help me stay alive today? What's the difference in that? Oh, because of I guess because you're in a government job, that gives you the right to be able to walk in the street like that. Me on this corner, and I'm talking airport and 35. A couple of days ago, there was 2 officers that me and my lady were out here flying. She was on another side, and I was over in this area that we refer to it as the grassy knoll. And I was flying there, and a SUV just pulled up right in front of me and was telling me that I can't fly there. And this is after the ordinance things has been passed and everything, telling me that I have to have a permit to be doing that. And so they threatened to lock me up. I didn't really care. The one that was really worried about that was my lady. I used some profanity at him and stuff like that, and he asked me for my ID, wanted me to go in my backpack and get my ID, and I was like, for what? I know I'm not gonna, it's like a command that you're trying to bark to me, but yet if I give you my name, my birth date, the stuff that what you're asking for, the same thing that's on that piece of paper or that ID that you want me to go in my backpack and get for you, once you type my name up in your computer, my face is gonna pull up. So why is it that I have to do those exact steps that you're trying to get me? So you're getting pissed off at me and wanna,
So it's all just kind of for show, like they just love that kind of power trip of being able to tell you what to do. You feel
exactly, and that's where that where these cop killings are coming into play. And yes, that stuff does make me angry. It doesn't matter what color it's being done to, just the fact that they're doing it is pissing me off. The one thing that's making me angry behind it is because people are so blinded to want to be like, oh, it was a black person that got killed today, and it's like, because I'm black. I look past that. It was a human being that got killed by a cop that should, within just some ignorance that was there.
Yeah, for sure. I guess we have a few more minutes. I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to touch on. Anything else you feel like you just kind of generally want people to know?
I can. I'm not acting like that. I'm just totally against, police enforcement, because somewhere in between, there has to be some kind of, I guess, correction or some kind of guideline, but within some of the lying and deceit that they got going on within their organization, I don't really like that. That brotherhood mentality. Oh, yeah. I think I was reading a story a while back about a female trooper, and like I said, it's been a while since I've read the story, but I believe she was a trooper, and she was basically driving, or she could have been sitting there, but the whole point of it is she seen another officer in his patrol car basically speeding, and she decided to hit her lights and chase after him. When she finally pulled him over and it was all said and done, it's like she started getting harassed by officers in her unit because she went after someone that was breaking the law. Just because you were in your car, it gave you the right to break the law. We're trying to enforce that on other people, but yet you feel that since you got this job, you could speed in that car with no lights on, not really care about, the other people that are around you. And so they started digging into her background and basically started hazing her. And it's like, all she was trying to do was get you to see that you were breaking the law that you're trying to make everybody else follow.
Since we were, talking a little bit about, like the fact that the cops are still telling people you can't set up here, you can't do this, you can't do that, even though like these ordinances are now in place, to me that sounds like the cops are just straight up lying. The cops are just like, and I think they rely on people not knowing their rights. Like that's a big part of how they're able to get away with like harassing people with doing the stuff they do. How do you feel like how informed do you feel like people are about what the new kind of laws are
out here? You got some homeless individuals, they like picking up the newspaper and reading it. Someone like myself, I dip into reading stuff every once in a while. I try not to think about some things because I'm already going through a lot, I feel. So I kind of steer away from some things, and so it kind of blinds us. But there's not too many people. I feel that know laws. Anyways, we're all just kind of just moving about, hoping for the best within ourselves. So they pull the wool over our eyes within laws being changed on a daily basis. I don't know. I guess I'm just kind of fed up with a lot of it, and I know other people are as well. I break laws all the time. I ride my bicycle. I'm one that's riding on my bike. I'm messing with my phone, that kind of stuff. That's a law that I'm breaking, but yet I'm still paying attention to my surroundings within myself. Jaywalking is a law that I'll break. I can go downtown and see plenty business people doing that all day long and not get harassed by cops. Let a person like that man or myself do that in front of a cop that's having an ego problem. He's trying to write you a ticket, for jaywalking. So you're doing that bad right now, or this city's doing that bad right now, where you have to write a jaywalking ticket and try to put me in the slave labor. To where I'm not really getting paid off of that in your jail system. That's the way I look at that.
What gets considered a crime, what's not a crime, who is who's criminalized and who's not, is all just entirely, like, I don't want to say arbitrary, but like it's it changes all the time, and it changes based on kind of ruling class. It seems like whoever it is they want to criminalize, whoever it is that they don't see they don't want to be in society, all of a sudden has these kind of new laws set against them. It feels like to me. I'm just thinking, for instance, I've been the victim of wage theft quite a bit. I did the calculations one day, figured out I've probably lost about $20,000 in the past 5 years due to wage theft.
Oh yeah! Wow.
And I see, but then I'll see like a story in like the local paper or like in one local news stations about somebody who took some meat from HEB, like $50 worth of meat, and they're sitting there in jail, and their mugshot is placed on on the website, and it's like they're out there, and now they're forever branded a criminal over $50, whereas like the different directors and the CEOs and whatnot who are systematically committing wage theft for tens of thousands or more dollars, like they get promoted. And it's like, to me that idea of like what is crime, right? Like, crime
that's one of them ones where it's just like it'll give me a headache. I think I got one building up right now thinking about the stuff at which you're hitting me with.
Sorry, I throw a lot out there.
No, you're good. I'm just I guess that's why I'm kind of in that area where I like to, I guess, close myself in. Because just like you had just said about an individual that can go in the store and steal some meat. I had someone come up to my tent like that, and I can't paint that picture because I don't know where that meat came from. All I know is that meat was cold. And for someone to come up to me and be like, they're just trying to get rid of it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, well, there goes a blessing. You know what I mean? Here goes a blessing for me today. I don't really have to move any further right now. And this is only what I have. So, okay, I can make a deal with this individual. I'm not asking people to go out here and steal stuff. That's not what I do. But within some things that come to me, I kind of look at those as blessings, because just like there's people in those high places where, in these organizations where someone could work for that individual 6-7 years. And you're stuck at that same pay for that long. And it's just like, wow, when do I get a raise? Because you get a raise no matter if you add 3 people, 4 people, you're constantly getting a raise in your pocket. So for me to be loyal to this company, you know what I'm saying? When do I actually get a raise, instead I have to wait 10 years to now get another raise from you, or 20 years to get another raise from you. You know what I'm saying? So I guess karma is one of those things that evens it out for some people when that kind of shit is done to those companies. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel that for sure. Yeah, so I know I've said this once before, but yeah, I guess we can go ahead and start to wrap up. Yeah, any sort of kind of last thoughts on anything we've talked about second time around?
Nah, I could probably keep talking to you all day, but I don't know. I guess I'll just kind of leave on that one, you know. Just stop looking down on these homeless individuals that are out here, you know, and if you got it in your heart to help them out, you know, stop locking your doors, being scary when you see someone just walking past you holding a sign up to get some help. You know, I really don't think there's too many of us out here that are going to jump in your vehicle or open your car door. You know what I'm saying? Whenever that kind of stuff is done, we look down on you as the individual, and how dumb are you to lock your door? You know what I mean? To do that to us, it's trying to mentally make us feel bad about ourselves, you know? And I just laugh at it. I'm out there, I'm kind of clowning on individuals like that, you know? But yeah, just stop looking down on homeless people so much in those areas. And if you do have a heart to do it, start learning that part of what you're doing is tithing. That's what you're doing. For individuals that, you know, you haven't tithed in the church. You don't have to always give your money up like that preacher man is telling you when he's taking that tithe, because there's very few of us that actually go and read their Bibles too. And I believe that you don't have to do it all at when that preacher man is doing it. You can do it at the end of the year. You can do it in increments throughout the year. But it's just like all God's really asking you to do is tithe. That's it. And that's what some of us are out here for. When you think you've seen a person on the corner and you thought it was a human being, I'll give you some truth. They're not always human beings. It could be an entity out there on that corner that God was testing you on that today. And so everything is written down and recorded. Hey. It drives me kind of on a spin in my head. But don't think that you're always interacting with some flesh that you've seen right there on that corner and you just rolled your window up or locked your door on it. I'm a flesh. I'm not an entity. But there's entities out here. Just know that. And that's what I'll leave it with.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds great. We're gonna go ahead and wrap up for real this time. We've been joined by Philip Mitchell to talk about kind of homelessness. And just to kind of recap, Philip Mitchell's tent was kind of attacked right after the passage of the City of Austin's Homes Not Handcuffs campaign. When those laws went into effect, there was kind of this rash of attacks on homeless people and homeless encampments. Thank you very much, Phil, for coming on.
Oh, yeah, no problem. I enjoyed the whole interview.
That was Philip Mitchell, whose tent was attacked right after the passage of the Homes Not Handcuffs initiatives by Austin City Council. I hope you will excuse the audio quality on that. I met Philip at his tent to record that interview. So yeah, stay tuned. You're listening to People's Republic with Brian Griffith. People's Republic originates on KOOP 91.7 FM Austin, and it's also broadcast on WHIV 102.3 FM New Orleans. We are also available as a podcast on SoundCloud, Spotify, Spreaker, Stitcher, or wherever podcasts are podded. Stay tuned. Now it's once again time for our monthly segment on Texas electoral politics leading up to the 2020 elections. I think this week we're going to focus on the analysis essentially made by Rachel Beitkoffer about the possibility of different congressional districts turning blue and the possibilities of a blue wave in 2020. So joining us once again to talk about all this and more is Jacob Aronowitz, a member of Austin DSA, as well as an organizer with all sorts of various campaigns and other things.
Thanks for having me, Brian.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't have your bio pulled up, so I'm.
Oh no, it's no worries. I'm a member with United Professional Organizers as well, Union for Campaign Workers, and other organizing professionals, you can always reach out to us at info@upounion.org if you'd like to learn more.
Yeah, thanks
you. Thanks for that opportunity to plug my union. I'm glad you didn't have the bio pulled up. That worked out so well for me.
Yeah, I'll just I should just let people introduce themselves, you know. So yeah, let's get into this for like what essentially is the analysis by Byte-Coffer rather of what her predictions are, because she predicted something like, was it 40 out of the 41 elections last time around. What basically is she kind of saying about the prospects for 2020?
So Rachel Byte-Coffer is a data scientist and probably holds other and more illustrious titles at CNU. And she had an extremely accurate model of the 2018 midterm elections, which accurately predicted, I believe, 40 out of 41 flip districts. So her analysis, she already has a model out in 2020, and I guess we could include the link to her model or something, or direct people to it if they wanted to. But Rachel Byte-Coffer 2020 will get you there on Google. And her model predicts, I believe, 278 electoral votes for the Democrats, with a much lesser number for Donald Trump. She's predicting a large blue wave, therefore. Her model goes all the way down into the congressional districts, predicting 18 congressional districts as being top opportunities for the Democrats to flip going into 2020. And one reason why I wanted to highlight her analysis today is that she identifies 9 out of the top 18 districts across the country as being right here in our state of Texas.
My question is always sort of, what are the factors with regard to what is it that makes a district flip? Like what are sort of the things here at play? Either the thing generally population shifts as far as people's either mentalities or perhaps a district turns more Latinx over time or something to that effect. And then sort of the actual possibilities within the different strategies. Like when you run a campaign, what are the things you can kind of do to sort of affect that election that she's talking about? Sure.
So Byte-Coffer's analysis, I guess a key thing to understand about it, and maybe this should have been in the answer to the last question, but if I could summarize her model or the way that she analyzes the data, it's all about the base, like the Meghan Trainor song, all about the base. She's arguing that, given demographic change as well as political polarization of the electorate during the Trump era and even beginning before, that the key to winning elections in this two-party system that we have and in the political environment we have is turning out your base during the election, as well as getting anyone who ought to be in your base to turn out and vote. So to appeal to your own base, its ideological motivations and inclinations, as well as core policy objectives and political advocacy that would advance their interests or their perception of their interests or their ideological causes. So how that translates to how she feels about the wave that she's predicting, or not really how she feels about it, but what her model seems to show and what she believes it suggests, is that Democrats need to concentrate on extremely progressive vision for policy and for policy change, an extremely progressive vision of society that they must articulate to the voter to not only cause as many people as possible to turn out and vote for that on the Democratic side, but also to bolster things like volunteer enthusiasm. And perhaps most importantly, to win back the faith and fidelity of disgruntled demographic cohorts or groups of people that haven't been voting for the Democratic ticket in the large numbers that maybe previous generations and elections they had. And so both of those things are served well by articulating a ideologically coherent and visible or a plausible picture of a world different from and better than the status quo. And that means having a very progressive platform, and once again communicating that to people in these districts to maximize their turnout, maximize your chance to beat the GOP in the general election, and potentially put Texas in play. Her model does seem to suggest that Texas is definitely a purple or a swing state, a state that's in play for its 38 electoral votes in the presidential election as well. If we have strong candidates going from the bottom up, that's another thing about her model. She thinks that we have to have strong, progressive, ardent candidates up and down the ballot to cause grassroots energy, volunteer enthusiasm, and of course, like turnout among low propensity groups to reach the type of crescendo we would need to achieve her maximum win scenarios, achieve all the flips that she says are possible or is predicting, as well as to put our state and other states in play in the presidential election, move their electoral votes around, which is obviously really key. The electoral college is, of course, a contest about who wins more states, not necessarily more votes. We learned that lesson, I think, with a fine point on it in 2016. So our analysis is also, again, once it can't be stated enough that her analysis or her model is extremely strong. Its predictive power was incredibly accurate in 2018, and that's part of the reason why she's like, it's one of the many and good reasons why she's getting so much coverage now that as her 2020 model rolls out.
Part of the Democratic Party really believes that the way to win is to appeal to the center. That's always what we hear, that we get told there's this this notion of electability, which just usually, like, electability just kind of means white and male usually.
Right. Well, not just white and male, but like fiscally conservative and like just at a principle level or an ideological level, like more conservative than some more left-leaning alternative. It has a range of implications from energy policy and how someone orients toward controversial questions, like how to deal with climate change. Are we going to continue to support environmentally destructive practices like fracking and have a quote-unquote all of the above approach to energy where we don't actually transition to a green energy and renewable economy? Or are we going to support policies like the Green New Deal that transition us strongly toward a fully renewable grid on a plausible and limited timeline? And it translates to things like healthcare. Like, are we going to allow vulture capitalist, extremely predatory health insurance companies to have a role in deciding who lives and dies? Or is every single person going to have the right to healthcare free at the point of service and covered for every single person in the country? Criminal justice reform and issues like that. Are we going to legalize marijuana and other drugs and expunge the drug war convictions that have destroyed communities, torn families apart and destroyed lives? Or are we going to like continue this so-called law and order public safety approach where we incarcerate people and turn them into glorified slaves in labor settings in prisons that are appalling, as we learn month after month? So like this idea of like centrism versus leftism, it has incredible implications for people day in and day out. The consequences of the policies enacted and these differences between what is a centrist and what is a progressive or whatever, someone who is center right but in the party or someone who is to the left wing and in the left wing faction of the party. There is a very strong moral dimension and several axes on which they could differentiate themselves, in which they do. And then we have Bytkofer's analysis, which the Bytkofer analysis shows that it's not just moral, it's also practical, that it's not just more moral to be better on these ideological and political questions. It's actually gets more people fired up about you and your party. They're turning out to vote in higher numbers, and they're volunteering and they're donating at higher numbers. And that is just good for your political party. That's how you win elections. You get more votes than your opponents. Very straightforward. So Bytkofer is kind of the numbers or the practical political rationale behind the moral argument that a more left-wing, inclusive, and just ideology is better. It's also a more effective way to win elections. And like I said, there's sort of like these like underlying models that she has about the rate of demographic change, which is something that you brought up. I mean, historically marginalized, historically oppressed demographic groups they're not like, the people in them are not dumb. They know they have a lot more to gain from these more progressive, more transformational platforms than they would gain from a sort of neoliberal technocratic stewardship of the continuation of the status quo. So if you give them a vision to vote for, they will turn out in higher numbers. And this is true for working class and poor people, too. Another group that the Democratic Party struggles with, not because those people go and vote for Republicans, it's because they fail to turn out if they think that the Democratic Party has left them behind, forgotten them, and is not speaking to them with their platform. So, and that's what Bytkofer's analysis is kind of showing, that like as income inequality grows, as demographic change occurs, and as the rate of cultural change progresses and actually accelerates, you have like a bifurcation of the electorate, where people become increasingly polarized, but also a bifurcation that occurs up-down, where people are willing to vote for transformational policies or non-transformational policies. And that goes back to what I was saying in the last episode of like new vision left, new vision right, or status quo. If we want people to turn out, if we want them to believe in the Democratic Party, we have to give them a new left-wing vision of society that gets us away from a status quo that there's a widespread recognition is broken, is not functioning for most people. Or a lot of people will vote for charismatic charlatans and populist demagogues like Trump. I hate to even call him a populist. I mean, he's a corporatist, crypto fascist but he is, when he articulates a vision that seems incredibly disruptive, it speaks to incredibly desperate people. And we need to, actually the antidote to that is to give people an alternative to the status quo that is not a fascist hellscape, that is instead a socialist, collaborative, well-functioning society that can provide for everybody and evade the worst consequences of impending climate change.
Well, I think the big thing with Trump is he acknowledged there was a problem. His solution to that problem and his analysis of what that problem is are horrifying.
Right.
Absolutely horrifying. But you had at that point a Democratic Party that what was kind of the Clintonite line? What was the Clintonite response to the quote unquote "Make America Great Again"?
America's already great.
America's already great.
Right. That's what I mean by that's a good emblem. That's a good emblem of what I'm kind of talking about. That you don't want to position that way. That's what Beitkoffer's analysis is showing, is that you want to energize people by actually hearing their problems and then addressing them in your platform, speaking to their lived experience, including them in your campaign, making them feel once again part and parcel of the Democratic Party and its project. And then, you'll see greater electoral success. That's what our model seems to suggest. And that's even true for Texas, where we're actually, if anything, we're kind of like an epitome of the types of transitions she's talking about in terms of democratic change, bifurcated electorate, and high levels of polarization.
Yeah, I'd also like to open up another option as well, another kind of a way of thinking, kind of based on my own understanding, based on what because right now we still have this idea that everything can be channeled through the Democratic Party. But the other sort of possibility is the ability to kind of build that mass movement outside of the Democratic Party. And I think that's an absolutely crucial element, is for, because obviously I do a lot of organizing with the Party for Socialism and Liberation, kind of a socialist party that we run candidates kind of independently. I think if you look also historically at kind of points of close to kind of revolutionary change, thinking of the moment of the 1960s and whatnot, it wasn't necessarily always the kind of within the Democratic Party, but I mean, for instance, it was Nixon who withdrew from Vietnam and who normalized relations with China. Did he normalize those relations? Did he do these ostensibly did he do these progressive things because he's a progressive person, because he had a progressive mindset? No, it was because there was enough kind of mass movement within the street. So that to me is another possibility. I just like to open up and offer a little bit of pushback of that's, not everything I think has to be channeled through the Democratic Party, but I do think it's interesting to see these kind of, this kind of insurgency. There's certainly something happening within Democratic Party politics that has not existed.
Right.
And it is opening up new opportunities for sure. So for those of you just tuning in, you're listening to People's Republic with Brian Griffith. People's Republic airs on KOOP 91.7 FM Austin, and we are also broadcast on WHIV 102.3 FM New Orleans. We're talking with Jacob Aronowitz about Texas politics. So anything you'd like to pick up on there, and then let's
sure.
get into some of these actual struggles.
So I have the utmost respect for the independent and third party folks that are to the left and the various faction or the various parties like PSL and others that do that work and carry the banner of socialism. And I feel in large measure, I feel a similar way about the function of elections, that it's about being able to reach the working class and their allies with a different political economy, a different analysis, and try to move sort of the cultural or ideological hegemony forward by doing that. That is part of the reason why I think it's important to sort of take on that, what you're talking about, this internal struggle within the Democratic Party, because for better or for worse, there's just a lot of eyes and ears attuned to those processes. And also, if you're able to win a primary in the Democratic Party's system, then you get a lot of automatic prominence in a sense. In other words, a louder bullhorn or a larger pulpit to do that. And we talked about this on the last segment. It's not really the fault of the third parties or not. It's just the nature of our system, the way that it's structured arithmetically, things like that. It gives incredible advantage to the existing two parties, but also kind of the way it's structured creates an arithmetic incentive to glom into these two parties. And it creates a situation where it's like you have to form coalitions before elections in order to vie for these winner-take-all districts. And so there's like all this sort of structural engineering that goes into like why it is that we have a two-party system. It's not just an authentic choice of the electorate to just organize themselves into two parties just because they feel like only two parties represents like the overwhelming spectrum of opinion of people in the country. There's like these harder structural or systemic reasons. So I think that because of that, there has to be a left-wing socialist presence within the only remotely left party that like routinely wins elections. And therefore has a bunch of attention and resources sort of aggregated to it, which is Democratic Party. But I do know that it's like incredibly important to have a movement that's much broader and much larger. A point that's been made, I think, really eloquently by environmental activists as well as migrant justice activists is that if you only focus on electoral work, you're actually like structurally ignoring everybody who doesn't vote or can't vote. And so there have to be, left-wing movements have to be broader than that. And electoralism just plays like a sort of role that's propagandistic, but also harm reductive. If you do win certain races, you can. There are times when you can make policy change that is really transformative in people's lives. And then also you can connect the change that is occurring to the project of socialism or what things would look like under socialism. Like, isn't it great that, so-and-so like Larry Krasner is not prosecuting tons of people and sending them to jail for no reason? Under socialism, it would be like, and then so you're sort of painting a picture in people's minds or showing them that a politics of compassion and collaboration can actually function in the real world and reorganize that world into something better. But yeah, like I said, just to make clear, like have nothing but respect for folks who choose to expand or organize socialism outside of the Democratic Party. And I also, I think it's necessary. And, maybe there'll be a point where we just like literally change our laws and allow third and fourth parties to exist. And then, we can form coalitions after elections like they do in most other democracies. On the other hand, I am glad to see the change that you spoke to occurring within the Democratic Party. There is a very vibrant and healthy sort of discursive struggle over the soul of the party, the policies it will pursue, and ultimately the people and their interests that it will or will not represent in general, whether it will be a party of working class people again or not. And I think that Texas is like one of the most important battlegrounds there. Like I said earlier, Rachel Beitkoffer identified 9 races in the state that are possible flips. She identified more than the 9, but she identified 18 that were like her most flippable in the whole country. 9 of them are here in Texas. That'd be Texas 2, Texas 3, Texas 10, Texas 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25, and then finally Texas 31. There's a lot of people across Texas and a lot of people in those districts that we could talk to through the lens of really progressive and or socialist candidates to show them a better world as possible.
We were joined by Jacob Aronowitz, a DSA member, and also with United Professional Organizers and Collective Campaigns. Thank you, Jacob, for coming back on the show.
Yeah, always a pleasure, and thank you so much for having me.
That's all we have for this week. You have been listening to People's Republic with Brian Griffith. People's Republic originates on KOOP Austin and is also available as a podcast on Spreaker, Stitcher, iTunes, or wherever podcasts are podded. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter at People's Radio ATX for more news and analysis. We are out of here.